everyone.
Good morning. I've started the recording. I encourage everyone to use the speaker view at the top right of your screen. And I'm going to hand over to Ruben Koshkiri for an introduction on behalf of the Malta Chamber of Commerce.
Good morning, everyone, once again, and thank you for attending this webinar, which is being organized under the We Make project, which is a collaboration between the Malta Chamber, the Malta Business Bureau, and the Energy and Water Agency. By means of these sessions, we strive to achieve a higher level of engagement within the business community on aspects of energy and water conservation and efficiency. Today's topic is particularly interesting as we are dealing with collaboration opportunities between industry and academia. And through this, we hope to provide you with more information on the often untapped potential for research that can be carried out without the need to exhaust our already exhausted internal human resources. Indeed, by bridging the gap between academia and business, we can create innovative solutions and unlock opportunities that can obviously drive our industry forward. To this end, we have invited the University of Malta to showcase industry-academia collaboration in action, including a best practice case study with TOLI. We have also invited MCST to present one of the research grants available to support such undertakings. And finally, Malta Enterprise will demonstrate how through the partnering opportunities of the Enterprise Europe Network, help is provided to link academics and researchers with local and international SMEs and vice versa. Our ultimate goal today is to shed light on the wealth of possibilities that industry-academia collaboration offers. The Chamber believes that by sharing success stories and exploring practical ways to foster these connections, we hope to make it as easy as possible to encourage these initiatives. Collaboration obviously is key to pushing Malta's manufacturing industry forward as it has been over the decades. Through innovative partnerships between businesses and with academia, we can break down barriers, create new opportunities, and ensure the sustainable growth of the industry. With this, I leave you to the webinar, and I wish you all a fruitful discussion.
Thank you very much, Ruben. Ruben is a council member at the Malta Chamber and the chairperson of the Manufacturing Economic Group. Thank you very much for making the time this morning, Ruben.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
Over to you, Engineer Buttigieg.
Yes, good morning to everyone. I'll be saying only a few words. I'll be saying a few words because I want to emphasize the importance of the collaboration between enterprise and academia. Not only in the energy and water sector, in every other subject. Of course, we as an energy and water agency, we have interest in this collaboration as regards energy and water, because we're already seeing it is providing new ideas, new solutions through the research scheme that we support as an agency. This scheme will continue. We expect that the next call will be in June. And again, it shall emphasize the importance of the collaboration between enterprise and academia. I think it is very, very important. As Mr. Koshkiri correctly said, I think academia can support a lot the enterprise, because enterprise might be lacking some of human resources as regards not only the research part, the technical part of the research, but also the admin part of the research. So the role of academia is very important here also. I have give a good morning to all. I'm sure I saw the list of speakers. They're very, very interesting. So good morning to everybody.
Thank you very much, Charles. Let's hand over to Dr. Engineer Paul Refalo from the University of Malta.
Okay, thank you, Tim, and good morning to all. I'll share my screen.
Okay, very good. We can see.
Okay, so thank you once again, and good morning to all of us, to all of you. I'm Paul Refalo from the Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering, and I'll be speaking to you about the collaboration that we have with industry, particularly on topics related to sustainable manufacturing. So, as the previous speakers already mentioned, we do collaborate with industry on energy and water conservation and material conservation, particularly in the manufacturing industry. So just an outline of my presentation. I'll start off with a very brief motivation, what drives us towards sustainable manufacturing, and then some research projects that we'll have on sustainable products and sustainable processes. So to start with, I like to use this date as one of my motivators. I'm not sure whether it rings a bell to any of you. It's a celebration, but it shouldn't be celebrated at all. There is a particular milestone, if you want, which is falling on a day which is always moving closer to January. And that is what is called the Earth's Overshoot Day. So it's the day when humanity's demand for the natural resources and services which we can extract, which we can get in a given year from Mother Nature for that particular year. So this year, by the 28th of July, we would have used all the resources allocated to us as a planet. And as you can imagine, there's also these days for each and every country. And for Malta, we celebrated this last week. So we're already overusing the natural resources for 2024 and 25, and we keep on doing this every year. We keep on using the resources which should have been used in a decreased manner. So with all this, we have, and this I think is already familiar with you all, the Sustainable Development Goals, which help us understand what needs to be done. And I'm showing this to you just to show that, just to understand that sustainability is no longer something that we still need to understand. We know what needs to be done, we just need to implement it. And particularly in manufacturing, we've got goal number 12, Sustainable Development Goal number 12, which is about responsible or sustainable, if you want, consumption and production, with obviously water, energy, economic growth, and industrial innovation very much related to this development goal. Here in Malta, we also have the Malta Low Carbon Development Strategy, which also specifically mentions manufacturing as one of the industries which needs to be decarbonized, which we as engineers and industry have to come up with practical solutions which eventually would reduce the carbon footprint of the products and the processes we're using. And so today I'm going to show you some practical examples of what we're doing here at university, how we're collaborating with industry to reduce the carbon footprint, to reduce the environmental impacts of products and processes. And so to start off with products, we know that each and every product that we produce goes through a whole life cycle. So it starts off with the material being extracted from Mother Nature, eventually from finite resources. It goes on to manufacturing. So the material is manufactured and the product is produced. It's distributed, shipping, freight, sea freights, land freights, And then it moves on to the use phase, where it's used and the product is maintained. Eventually, the user would decide that that product reached its end of life. And so if the product is designed to be disassembled and be recovered, there might be a second opportunity. So the product might go to a second lifetime, we would be giving it a second chance, or else it would be just landfilled or disposed of in other ways. And what we are doing here, we're carrying out life cycle assessments, LCAs, to assess and compare the various environmental impacts numerically, quantitatively, over the whole life cycle. So we wouldn't just say, yes, that is better for the environment, yes, that is the environmental impact would be lower, but we would be assessing them quantitatively. So with values, the global warming potential, the acidification potential of each and every product and process that we study, we can assess and compare numerically. And in fact, one of the products which we assessed recently was in collaboration with Tolly Products, was one of their packages which they produce in thousands and millions every year. This is one of the packages. We carried out a life cycle assessment to assess the reusability and the recyclability of such a package. So what we wanted to assess, what we wanted to see, is whether having a package designed specifically for reusability and a package designed specifically for recyclability, and how these compare. Sometimes reusability and recyclability go against each other. And so we established a baseline, it's the red line on this graph. We called that our 100, our datum, and we came up with various scenarios. I won't be boring you with the details, but we saw that reusable and recyclable scenarios have these opportunities, but there was one other opportunity which is labeled as V3C, which is very low, so the environmental impacts over there would be extremely lower than our datum, is when we removed one of the components in the product. So in this case, it was the aluminum pan, and we saw that aluminum, there's a no-brainer, we already knew it, but now we know it quantitatively. Aluminum is very energy intensive, it is very carbon intensive, so there is an opportunity that if we remove one of these components, the environmental impacts would be much, much lower. So in this case, removing this component would mean that potentially the product would not be reusable. So it would be a single-use package, a single-use product. However, making it single-use and recyclable and removing that one single component, the aluminum component, would reduce the environmental impacts drastically. Another project which we carried out also with Tolly, which we just published last week in Poland, was the comparison of biodegradable polymers for cosmetic packaging. So we assessed a baseline material, ABS in this case, and two alternatives, PLA and a wood polymer composite. We carried out a life cycle assessment and a financial assessment, a life cycle costing exercise, carried out some quality tests, and saw how these different materials fare when compared to each other. So Tolly, and I'm sure that Olaf will be explaining this in further detail after in today's webinar, would have access to these results. So they would have this data, these results from us, and they would be using this data to say, okay, so this study is showing us that there is this potential, or else this other study is showing us that this biodegradable polymer might be better than others in this way or the other. Moving on, another product which we developed, it's rather a system which we developed in an Interreg Italia-Malta funded project, is the microwatt system. So over here, we partnered with Econatic from Malta, or Gozo, and Plastic Alpha from Italy. This was a 2.4 million project. This was a relatively big project, and we developed the grey water recycling system. So the idea here is to get gray water from baths, showers, wash hand basins. So we get the gray water, we treat it to a certain extent and use it as second-class water to reduce the water required practically for toilet flushing or landscaping. So there's the potential of reducing the water consumption by 30%. So we developed this system, but we weren't happy with just saying that potentially by 30%. We wanted to see how this system, this product we developed, fares when it comes to the environmental impacts. So again, we carried out a life cycle assessment. We compared our product with the baseline scenario. So it's the Water Services Corporation scenario of producing freshwater potable water from reverse osmosis, from seawater using reverse osmosis, and then treating it in the wastewater treatment plants that we have in the country. And we compared our system with that. Again, we established a baseline, and over here we found what the best operational parameters of the system that we developed would be to have a lower carbon footprint. So had we, if this life cycle assessment wasn't carried out in collaboration here with industry, we wouldn't be able to find out that there are some parameters, some operational parameters, which would, reduce the water consumption, but the environmental impacts would be higher. So there are some parameters which would make this system worse than the baseline. So a life cycle assessment here helped us as researchers at university, but helped the industrial partners know that this system would only be environmentally beneficial if it's operated using these given the operational parameters in the green area. So over here, I showed how we're using life cycle assessments to develop sustainable products and systems. Now, moving on to the sustainable processes. Earlier on, I said that the Malta Low Carbon Development Strategy, the decarbonization strategy, particularly mentions manufacturing as one of the industries which needs to be decarbonized. And this document goes further on and specifies that compressed air systems and injection molding systems specifically needs to have their carbon footprint reduced. And so we're working on these two systems, and starting off with compressed air systems, we're trying to come up with a system which deals with the leakages which we find in industry. Compressed air has a very high energy and carbon footprint because you need energy hungry compressors to compress air in industry. And on average, we have 30% of this compressed air typically lost to leakages. And in Malta, we estimate that we have 12,000 or 12 million kilowatt hours lost to leakages per year. Now, this number might mean nothing. So if we convert this energy to the photovoltaic panels required to generate the same energy, we would need around 25,000 panels, occupying 8 football pitches here in Malta just to offset leakages in compressed air. So you can see that the impact is high. So what we did is we tapped MCST funds. We're running a €300,000 project in partner with AIM Enterprises. So we're developing and analyzing an Industry 4.0 system to autonomously improve the sustainability of pneumatics. So we have AIM Enterprises with us. We also have ST, Microelectronics, Tolly, and Methode Electronics on our industrial advisory board. So we have them on board with us, and we meet regularly to exchange ideas with them and better understand the industrial problem. And now we're coming up with this intelligent system, which will be using industrial Internet of Things and artificial intelligence to autonomously identify and classify these inefficiency sources on the demand side of a compressed air system in real time. So in this case, we would have a system which would detect where these leakages are and eventually also not just tell you where these leaks are, but also control them. And this is a work in progress. This is a project we are carrying out practically as we speak with AIM Enterprises. Injection molding, sustainable injection molding. In this case, it's a project called Vacuum in collaboration with Tolly Products. So injection molding system processes would have a problem called air traps. So you would have air in these molds, which would result in products of less quality, as I'm showing over there in the green cup. So what typically happens in industry, they would increase the pressure to improve the fill of this injection mold of the plastic fill. So increasing the pressure would increase the energy consumption. So producing good quality products when you have this type of problem would mean that you need to increase your energy consumption. So again, we're using funds by MCST to typically eliminate these machines, because there is a solution to such a problem. But again, there are machines which use even more energy. It's called active venting. So what we're doing is we're studying and coming up with innovative ways. We're studying how the melt flows and trying to reduce the energy consumption while still producing good quality products in injection molding systems. So that's in a nutshell of some projects that we are carrying out with industry, practically to reduce energy consumption, to reduce water consumption, to improve the sustainability of manufacturing processes. There are various ways of how we can collaborate. We can use the undergraduate final year projects, which are typically 1 year long. We can use master by research projects, PhDs, and even postdoctoral research. Just yesterday, there was the launch by the Malta Chamber of Commerce of the postdoctoral fellowship scheme, which was held, I think, at Esplora. So it happened yesterday. I don't know whether Timothy and MBB organized the date on purpose, but it just happened yesterday. And over here, we're seeing the CEO saying that industry and academia collaboration can become an integral part of the development of our industries. We can use locally funded projects, and we can use internationally funded projects, which later on, I'm sure that will have a very good explanation, a very good introduction to. So there are various opportunities. I invite you to get in touch, and we can see how to collaborate and obviously move on towards goal number 12 in this case, Sustainable Development Goal, which improves the sustainability of the manufacturing industry. Thank you very much for your attention, and feel free to ask any questions and get in touch.
Thank you very much, Dr. Engineer Afalo. The interventions for air compression combine digitalization with hardware interventions, if I've understood correctly.
Exactly.
And can you elaborate a bit more on the injection molding savings? They seemed quite significant, up from 65% down to less than 1%.
Okay, so this is the active venting system would reduce the rejects. So the 65% to less than 1%, it's about the rejects resulting from defects in the product. So over there, yes, we'll be seeing a great reduction in the material consumption, because if you reduce defects, you reduce material consumption, but you're also reducing the energy required to produce defects. Because sometimes we look at defects as just the material required. So we throw away, we discard, we dispose of the materials, the defective parts. But really and truly, a defective part would require energy as well to be produced. So yes, active venting here reduces cycle time and the rejects. What we're coming up with is an innovative way which works without these active venting systems. So we will be achieving practically the same or even better results without such energy intensive and bulky equipment.
Thank you. When it comes to collaboration involving students or PhD students, I think it would be important to emphasize that this can apply to a wide range of companies and different innovations, right? So what would the process be usually to identify an opportunity for research within a company?
Yes, the first step would be to have a simple meeting, an introductory meeting, and we understand what the problems are, how doable they are, and what the best way would be to go about tackling that particular problem. As I said, we have various levels. So we could have undergraduate students working on such problems. Normally, these are straightforward problems rather than more trickier and more intensive problems. In that case, we tap the masters by research and eventually even PhDs and postdocs, because obviously you would get students who are even more mature, and even the timelines would allow, the timeframes would allow the students and the research projects to delve into more detail. But the first step would be to get in touch, and we'll discuss and see how the best way how to collaborate would be.
Thank you. I'll facilitate that communication for interested companies.
Thank you very much.
Let's move on to Tolly. Mr. Olaf Zara is going to represent a case study of collaboration in further detail.
Okay, can you see my screen?
We can see it very well, yes.
Okay, so, oops, okay. So basically I'm going to be explaining how this works from the industrial side. My name is Olaf Zara. I'm the Chief Technical and the Sustainability Officer for Tolly Products. I'll just give you a brief introduction for Tolly Products. Who are we? Basically, we are a supplier of luxury packaging to the beauty industry. We've got both our headquarters and our biggest manufacturing facility in Malta. However, we're an international group, so we have commercial offices basically worldwide, and our manufacturing footprint includes China and Korea through either direct investment or joint ventures. In Malta, we are a vertically integrated factory, so we've got injection molding, decoration. We actually cut and process our own mirrors, and basically we decorate and assemble all the products. So there are a number of processes, interesting processes within our premises. Just a quick look at some of the products. Basically, we are in cosmetics, skincare, and fragrance. These are some of the cosmetic products that we supply from the group. And these are some of the skincare, traditional jars, but also airless products. Some of the products are highly technical, and it's a smaller part of our business, but we are also supplying fragrance caps for the fragrance industry.
Olaf, we're still on the first slide, just in case.
I have moved. All right. Okay, let me try and reshare. Nala.
Okay, yes, now it's better.
So, has it moved now?
Yes, we're seeing the intended slide.
Okay, basically these are some of the color cosmetic products that we supply, and these are the skincare and fragrance products that we supply. Just to give you some context to basically where we're coming from. So, collaborating with academia, in this case, the University of Malta. We do not collaborate just with the University of Malta. However, this is basically a collaboration that has gone back a long time. Number one, I think there are synergies. The main department that we collaborate with is the Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering. We've been collaborating for a number of years, and basically there have always been synergies, there have always been common goals that we need to achieve, and this helps. We have in the past collaborated also with other departments. However, I would say 95% of the projects that we've done have been with Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering. The second part I think is very important, and is becoming even more important. Basically, the students get to know us. Today, we know that there is huge competition for talent, especially technical talent. And basically, working with students, especially in the undergraduate final year projects, allows the students to get to know us and we to get to know them. So they get a feel for what it is like to work in an industrial environment. They get to see what environment we actually have, and we get basically to connect with these students. And a number of times, a number of students who have done their final year projects have been employed, or are, or many are still employed at Stolly Products. It also takes a lot of the risk out of the recruitment process. The students know us, we know them, so the risk of failure is mitigated. Obviously, these students bring a fresh mindset. A lot of us, like me, have been in the industry for decades, we're not even counting in years now. And basically, we tend to look at problems with a very specific mindset that this experience brings. Students tend to look at issues from a different perspective, with a different mindset. Obviously, maybe I shouldn't say this, but this collaboration brings other resources. It gives us basically access to the professors as well. So, and this is an important part. So basically, when we work with university, the university itself has access to other research that it can bring to bear on our projects. But there is the expertise of the professors that we collaborate with, that we co-supervise with, which obviously is a great help. I think the key word is relevance. Basically, the projects that we work on must and have to be relevant to us as an organization, but they have to be relevant to the university and also to the student, basically doing his or her final year project. And last but not least, I enjoy it. I mean, we have been collaborating for many years, and basically having this fresh mindset, collaborating with both the professors, the students, etc., is a very enjoyable process. The history, I would say we've been doing undergraduate final year projects for 25 plus years. Probably if I were to go back really a long time, if I had the history, it would be 30 plus. And as I mentioned before, we've been collaborating mainly with the Department of Industrial and Manufacturing Engineering. We have basically looked at projects over the years in design, process, and sustainability. So when we look at design, we've looked at projects which have included new functions for our products, new gestures from looking at it from the consumer perspective, new applications, and basically new functionality. So we've had a number of projects in this area, and some of them basically give us, I mean, I wouldn't say that any of these projects are going to become products, but they do give us a lot of insight and basically a lot of knowledge that we can then apply to our design teams. When I talk about Tolly, basically collaborating with University of Malta, we have several departments which actually participate. So we have our innovation department, and again, it is basically made up of ex-students who have done their projects with us. We have our technical design department, so which takes care of industrialization. So they are all part of this process. When I look at the process-oriented projects that we've had, we've looked at different ways of manipulating parts, different ways of transporting parts. We even had a project where we were looking at one of the processes that we never managed to automate. We had a student who actually came in and managed to find a way of automating the release of mirrors, which is very difficult. And again, that eventually spawned a process which today is industrialized. And last and definitely not least, because I would say in the last 4 to 5 years, this has been the area of focus, sustainability. Paul already mentioned some of the projects that that we've worked on, and this has become a real area of focus. Tolly is a manufacturer of plastic packaging, so those final 2 words, plastic packaging, mean a lot. So apart from us having the challenges which everybody else has, which is basically reducing our CO2 emissions, we also have the challenge of basically changing regulation, but and changing impact of the environment of our products. I would like to say that we are working a lot in this area, and basically one of the results that we've achieved in the last 4 to 5 years is reducing our carbon emissions, for example, by 59%. So today we have less than half the carbon emissions that we have had. With when we're talking about sustainability projects, typically we are focusing more on the product. So basically, you've all heard the words reduce, recycle, reuse, and again, Paul alluded to it. Well, he more than alluded to it. He went into a lot of detail. We actually studied whether reduce is better than recycle, and recycle is better than reuse. Our policy with our consumers or with our customers is always to provide data, always to provide fact. So we do not want to tell our customers this is a better solution unless it can be backed up by fact. And these, this project, for example, gave us the facts that we needed, that we built upon in order to provide this data to our customers. We looked at, we tested the limits, for example, of material recyclability. We had one student who for whom we produced products with materials which was continuously recycled until basically it started failing mechanically, and we got some very, very surprising results on how far we can take material recycling. Last year, a couple of years back, we tested additive manufacturing, 3D printing, versus the traditional manufacturing processes, injection molding. We looked and basically got data to see whether one is more sustainable than the other. We've basically looked also at biodegradables. Again, one of the projects mentioned by Paul, and basically came up with data to support the use of biodegradable materials. So we've learned a lot. There's a lot of data. That data keeps improving and increasing our knowledge. So this basically has given us it's given us a lot of information that basically has finally formed our sustainability strategy. And we also mentioned funded research projects. So basically the undergraduate final year projects tend to be over a period of 6 to 9 months, and they are typically smaller issues. The funded research projects with Tolly as industrial partner tend to be on a longer period. These tend to be 2 to 3 years long. And again, relevance plays an important part. So both these projects were mentioned by Paul, but I'll give you my perspective on them. So vacuum, which is the seamless mold vacuum system, basically so basically as one of the issues that we have today is we are continuously testing and using completely new materials. These new materials are giving us new challenges, and one of those challenges is gas and gas evacuation. If you cannot vent the tool, if you cannot get the gas out, it has a number of effects on your product, and sometimes can make the product unmoldable. So basically, this study is looking at ways of making active venting more manageable, less expensive, less cumbersome, less energy intensive. basically, if we have proper venting, we get a number of sustainability advantages. Basically, we reduce the energy because we need to use less pressure. We reduce rejection. So again, there's an impact on the environment, and it reduces tool wear. These gases, basically, when left trapped, they will superheat and basically eat even into metals. So for us, this is a very relevant project. And the second one is AirSafe. And again, speaking of relevance, I mean, energy audits in the beginning, and now our building management system shows us that basically compressed air is our second largest user of electricity. And we know also that compressed air systems are notoriously inefficient, 30%. And I think I would dare say that the bigger the system, and we have a very big system, the bigger the inefficiencies. Basically, the bigger the system, the more leaks you get, and these leaks at the end of the day can use up an enormous amount of energy. Basically, this project with Dr. Paul Refalo and Dr. Emanuel Francalanza is using artificial intelligence and IoT in order to not only be able to find the leak, but take it down to the component level. So eventually this system will be able to tell us where our leak is, and that means, because if you've ever run a compressed air system, basically you know that it leaks, but basically finding all the leaks is the big issue. I mean, the traditional way to do it is shut down the factory on a Saturday, on a Sunday, switch on the compressed air system, and people go around with either with ultrasonic detectors or with their ears to look for the leaks and try to plug them all. But it's not something that you can do continuously, so it's something you do periodically. This would allow us basically to find leaks in real time and basically be able to plug them in real time. So again, it is a very relevant project, and one which has environmental benefits, because this would reduce our electricity consumption, which would in turn reduce our carbon emissions. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Olaf. If we had more time, I'd ask some questions, but I think we should move on to the University Projects Office. If we have any questions, we'll pass them on separately. Thanks, Olaf.
Morning. Basically, I'm from the Project Support Office at the University of Malta. We work in close collaboration with the academics by handling their financial and administrative work on the project and allowing them to focus more on the technical aspects of the projects. Next. 2 seconds late. Okay. Basically, we are also the first point of contact in handling project support to the academic staff, and we deal with multiple offices at the University of Malta to help support these research projects. We work in close collaboration with the finance office as well. We form part of the finance office. We also work with legal office when it comes to drafting of contracts and signing of consortium and grant agreements. We work with the knowledge transfer office as well, where we on issues relating IP. And we work also in close collaboration with the human resource office when they are engaging new research support officers. So the academics primarily come to our office, and we liaise with the different departments to help them to help focus more on the admin side of the vast projects. There is also, we work also with the Research Support Directorate of the university, which is also more involved in the initial stages of the project, whilst our project is there from the pre to post award of the life cycle of the project, which leads me on to where the projects, I mean, we've heard Dr. Follow mention different programs they've tapped into. Our work starts at the submission of the proposals, where we help academics draft their budget. We look into all the aspects of the proposal as well. Apart from the financial side, there is some people at the RSSD office that help with the technical aspects as well. After that, the project goes, whether it's awarded or not, we are there and we sign the grant agreement. Sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board because not all the funds would be given to us, so we have to renegotiate what can be used with the utilization of the grant and the budget that we've been awarded together with the academics. Then upon signature of the grant agreement, we have a team that throughout the lifetime of the project helps supports the project implementation, bearing in mind that projects can be as short as 3-month projects, sometimes extending to 4 or 5-year projects. So we are there in all the aspects with recruitment, as I said, of new staff, with help in interim reports, we support if there are minutes to be taken and certain administrative work. We do all the financial reporting of the projects, and also we look and we deal with anything audit and post-closure, making sure that the partners, if we're in the cases where we're lead partners, ensuring that the partners receive their due funding. And also we monitor the projects ongoing throughout the whole life cycle. Apart from that, we are obviously dealing with public funds, so we have ongoing audits both within the university and from external authorities, where we need to keep all supporting documentation for up to 5 years of any project, basically. A bit more how we are divided. There is the pre and post award teams, and also our post audit, where the pre-award team help in identifying which programs are best suited for the research projects the academic would like to undertake. There is also, when we are lead partners, there's a legal team that performs due diligence on partners, budgeting aspect, we check consistency, whether the project is feasible or not. Sometimes meetings are held with academics when they tell us this work can be done with 2 researchers, whether this work is done by 1 researcher, what type of researcher they want. They want a postdoc, a student with masters. Then once the project is awarded, as I was mentioning, this continuous progress. We meet quite often with the academics ongoing, who make sure that they are all the finances are being spent within the eligibility of the programs, basically. We do the report, its documentation. Post all this, and after the project is closed, we ensure that the distribution of funds to the partners is distributed. Some statistics of the number of projects we manage. In academic year 2021 to 22, basically we had 377 active projects at the University of Malta, to a total value of 43.5 million. In that year alone, we were awarded 176 projects to the value of 9.5 million. We work with 55 different funding programs at any one given time. We deal with 34 different faculties, institutions, and we help support more than 166 academics at the University of Malta. Apart from this, just brief figures. Our number of projects are mostly, yes, locally funded, rather than internationally funded. However, the international funded projects bring in more value, but obviously internationally funded projects, there is more applicants, so the amount of projects we get are less. I know that we have colleagues from the MCST, which I won't go into the program per se itself. However, what type of work do we support the academics? In such a program, there is a consortium. Basically, consortium need to be made by both a public entity and an industrial entity. So our pre-award team, when we're lead partners, they ensure that 75% of the budget is not given to more than one entity according to the eligibility of the program itself. We've helped support academics both in lead partner as well as partner roles in this type of program, as well as we mentioned, the particular grant is of almost 100K, and these funds are there to support costs such as personnel, equipment, consumables. So we also, throughout the lifetime of the projects, I mentioned the HR, but we also are in constant contact with our procurement department for any issuing of tenders, if there needs to call for quotations. Also, I mentioned earlier the KTO, they are there to help us assist in any IP issues. We are the financial people, but we tap into their knowledge also. We are there to be the liaising person between the academics. Also, we liaise with the partners, and in this case, also with the funding authority as well. We're there to support throughout the whole budgeting process, implementation. If there are any budget shifts throughout the lifetime of the project, any supporting documentation that needs to be made, basically all the administrative stuff. This, I'm sure my colleagues will go into this, but also as a university, this type of program, we go for 100% eligible costs. However, we are aware that the industry partners, there is a co-financing rate from their end, which would be required as well. Okay, another program which Dr. Refolo has mentioned before is the Interreg Italia-Malta project. We're very successful in the previous programming period between 2014 and 2020, because on it alone, we managed 11 out of the 14 awarded projects as a University of Malta. It is a collaboration between Malta and Sicilian partners, where there needs to be both Maltese and Sicilian partners in the consortium for such projects. As Paul before me mentioned, we had two industrial partners, Plastica Alpha in Sicily and Econetic in Malta, or Gozo. As well, we had the partners in the consortium as well. We worked with MCST and other universities and in Catania. This is just to give you an idea of the amount of value. It was a 2.4 million project, basically covering 41 months. We're there to support the team from the university in all aspects of the program. Even when COVID hit, we had to renegotiate and reshift budgets and see how things can work better with the situation that the world offered to us at that point in time, basically. Another program which we work a lot on is the Horizon Europe program. The budget for this programming period alone is close to 95 million euros. As I said, this program is much more competitive. However, the funds we receive are usually quite substantial. It is the objective is to achieve scientific, technological, economic, and social impacts of the EU's investment and R&I of all the member states basically. Just a brief overview that there are different pillars at the university. As a university, we work with the different pillars. However, probably pillar 2 where is more relevant in this for this presentation, basically. Apart from this, just to make you aware that such projects also deal with different consortium structures. Consortiums in Horizon projects can be as little as 2 or 3 partners, but we've had projects with up to even 50 or more partners across Europe, including large companies and SMEs, and obviously our research team at the university, as well as other entities locally. Just to make you aware that these type of programs, there are different modalities of participation in such programs where the coordinator role is highly competitive, as I said earlier, but we can always join as partners, associated partners or third parties. Also in such programs, we have subcontracting possibilities as well. And through the constant networking that our academics do with the different university abroad as well, other partners of previous programs, the collaboration is ongoing as well. Thank you. If you have any questions, please do let me know. We are always here to support.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aquilina. Perhaps one quick question before we move on to the next speaker. If a company is interested in getting involved in a consortium or a project, can they reach out directly to the project support office to be put in touch?
Yes, they can either write to us on project support, and we'll probably direct them to the RSSD, or they can email directly the RSSD, and they can find academics within the university to help them and help and support them in projects. Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Let's move on to MCST, where we're going to have a presentation on the research and innovation grants. Thank you, Mr. Borch.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'm Stephen Borch. I'm the senior executive from the R&I unit in MCST. I'm going to be speaking to you a fair bit about the council today and about the initiatives we have, particularly focusing quite a lot on those that we have for sort of local collaboration or public and private collaboration. So first, a little bit about the council, about the structure. So MCST is divided into 4 what we call technical units. As I mentioned, I am in the R&I unit. We deal with local funding for local programs. There is the policy and strategy unit, which I think their name very much tells you what they do. They collect the intelligence that we sort of receive within technical units and from other government entities to draft the research and innovation policies. There is the Horizon Europe unit, which Dorothy introduced a fair bit. What Horizon Europe is already. Essentially, they host the NCP network, and anyone who's interested in accessing funding from Horizon Europe can speak with them, and they will help put your application together and explain, for example, the eligibility criteria and what you would need to do to apply. Finally, there's the internationalization unit. There's my colleague Annalisa, who's going to be speaking about that a little bit later. But in brief, it is still local funding, so Maltese sort of taxpayer funded, but it is for research projects with a more international scope, with consortia from different countries. So I am going to speak to you about the work that we do in the R&I unit specifically. The major way in which we provide support in the R&I unit is through Fusion. Fusion is a portfolio of programs that focuses on support across all what we call technology readiness levels, all stages of the development of a novel piece of technology. It started in 2015, and since 2015 has given over almost 20 million euros in funding. It is increasing year on year and slowly. So I believe the budget for example, 2023 was just shy of 5 million euros. The majority of these 20 million euros so far has gone to collaborative research projects, particularly those between the private and public industry, and would total to over 13 million euros of the funding spent, mostly through the technology development program that, again, Dorothy already mentioned. So Fusion caters for, like I was saying, a wide range of different projects. They could be projects as small as 20,000 euros, those focusing on, for example, a feasibility study, to up to 300,000 euros, which is going to be the development of novel technologies. This is essentially all of the programs that we have under Fusion. There is the so the Research Excellence Program is usually considered the starting point, and that is going to fund basic research or the initial concept, essentially funding a proof of concept being developed. The Commercialization Voucher Program is there to fund the feasibility study, so taking the proof of concept that might have been developed at RAP stage and making sure it's commercially viable and is genuinely novel. That follows into the Technology Development Program. The TDP is an applied research grant that's 295,000 and is our longest standing program along with the CVP, and obliges a consortium between one public and one private entity. Recently, we introduced the go-to-market and we sort of closed the cycle, and that is dedicated towards the latter technology readiness levels, the commercialization phase, where essentially we're helping novel products get a sort of a small business loan, for example, or perform some verification and validation on a novel device that they might have. We have some alternate programs as well, sort of to fill out some of the gaps that we see in this sort of main core route. The Technology Development Program focuses on also applied research, so developing a prototype, and it is more, but in a more expedited manner. So, and it is more targeted towards, for example, ICT related technologies, and is not necessarily collaborative. Similarly, the thematic program is focusing on particular issues on a year-on-year basis. So, for example, last year it focused on smart cities. This year it is most likely going to focus on upstream space technologies, so on and so forth. So, zooming in on some of our more collaborative initiatives. So there is the CPP and TDP route, which you already heard quite a little bit about. Essentially, the TDP obliges that a consortium is formed and that you would have gone through the CPP before. And it finances essentially up to 300,000 euros. Probably a unique trait of the MCST is that most of our funding is provided in pre-financing. So if there are going to be issues in cash flow, we might have to help prevent that through this pre-financing. And the project under TDP is up to 36 months. Now, we are also introducing a brand new program. It is going to be launched within the next couple of weeks, called the Technology Extension Support Program. And again, this is going to focus on collaboration between private entities and higher education institutes, which most commonly tend to be public entities. And it is going to be a 40,000 euro grant to fund incremental sort of product development. So it isn't necessarily focusing on completely novel new products, but more the incremental improvement of an existing product or service with the support of a higher education institute. And the projects would be up to 15 months in this case. So going through some success stories, you actually already heard a couple from Olaf, who mentioned AirSave and Vacuum, which are both TDP projects. I'm going to go through another couple. So we had, for example, a project between Carlo Gavazzi and the University of Malta, which developed this particular single-phase starter motor called the HDMS, which ultimately was incorporated into their product line, and currently Carlo Gavazzi have available and you can purchase. Another project which is still in development, this is for the University Humane Limited and Invent 3D. So it is actually multiple private entities. And this is focusing on developing a technology which will remotely collaborate with therapists to help children with cerebral palsy. So it's going to collect information and collect sort of response times and send that information remotely to benefit both a therapist and both for the person who's using it, for the child or parents who are using it. So I think I went relatively quickly. I'm going to hand over to Annalisa, who's going to continue speaking to you about the internationalization unit.
Thank you, Mr.
Annalisa.
Borch.
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, I will just run a bit through our internationalization unit. As Stephen already mentioned, we are still applying national funds, but our, let's say, a difference between the R&I unit is that we are here to strengthen the international collaboration amongst the local and the foreign researcher and stakeholders. So in the next slide, you can see the program that we are currently implementing. And I will a bit present in more details in the next slide, all of them. So starting from the bilateral calls, as you can imagine, you need at least one independent legal entity from each of the cooperating countries. So in the slide, you can see the Sino-Malta bilateral fund. And indeed, you might require a Malta-based applicant and an applicant from China. Which is of interest in this webinar, because of course you might have a university, for example, collaborating with a private or an industry private company from the partner country. This call is going to be launched actually quite soon, this Friday, and the thematic areas are quite broad. So we go from the blue and green translations towards health and digital technology as an horizontal thematic area. It's a bottom-up call, so the project can be, you can come up with a project for your needs. You don't have to follow a specific call text. However, of course, your project must follow the thematic area, must be in line with the thematic areas. The national call budget is of 600,000 euro, so we are aiming to award 3 projects. In fact, the Malta-based applicant can ask up to 200,000 euro per project. In the next slide, you have the MCST TÜBİTAK joint call for R&I proposal, and in this case, the partner will be from Turkey. The call actually is currently open and will be ending soon on the 15th of May. Again, it's a bottom-up call, which is tapping into different thematic areas, goes from water management, sustainable farming system, agri-food value chain, digital tech, as usual, as well as manufacturing. The call budget is a bit lower. We have 300,000 euro in order to award 3 projects. The Malta-based applicant can ask up to a total of 100,000 euro per project. Then on the other end, we have a few multilateral calls, and as has been mentioned before, in this type of calls, usually the consortium is a bit larger, but has to have at least 3 independent legal entities from 3 different participating countries. So in our unit, we implement for the moment for Horizon 2020 Horizon Europe Partnership, we have the PRIMA, the Clean Energy Transition, the Transforming Health and Care System, and the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. In all this partnership, the national call budget is of 500,000 euro per call, and the Malta-based applicant can ask up to the total 500,000 per project. It's interesting to notice that all of our calls are on a yearly basis, so usually we open the calls every year. This partnership are, of course, thematic based and are top-down, so you have to follow and to look into the call text for each of them. And in fact, as you can see in the PRIMA, so in the next slide, you have thematic areas most relevant to the agricultural sector. So again, management of the water, farming system, and agri-food value chain. But of course, these are more relative to the Mediterranean area. And of course, the goal and the sustainability goal that are there to the challenges that are there that are similar in the Mediterranean area. The calls actually are closed, but will be launching again next year. Then we have the Clean Energy Transition Partnership that you might be already aware of. Again, in this partnership, different nations are pulling up national and regional funds in order to launch the joint call at a yearly basis. This year, the call will be launched again in September. And the main goal of the partnership is to empower the clean energy transition and contribute toward the European goal of becoming the first climate neutral continent by 2050. As you can see, the partnership is tapping into different transition areas. We go from the net zero emission towards heating and cooling, as well as the integrated energy systems. Of course, if you have any question relative to each of the program, you can contact us and we'll provide you with further details. In the next slide, you can see the aim of the Sustainable Blue Economy Partnership. Yes, which basically, of course, is more related to the blue economy, so towards the sustainability, productive and competitive blue economy. Again, this is challenging to be reached by 2030. And this partnership is also focusing on different important intervention areas. We go from the digital twin towards blue generation of marine structures, better planning and managing of the sea, as well as the blue food and blue food production as well. The call actually it was closed recently, but we'll be launching again next year in Q1. Finally, we also have the Transforming Health and Care System Partnership, probably a bit of less interest for you. However, this partnership is aimed at supporting the transformation of the health and care system, facilitating as well the use of health and care services. So digital tech, mobile health are very key for this partnership. It is open and the call deadline is on the 23rd May of this year. So just to give you some information on the unit in terms of number, as you might notice, we are the youngest unit because we have been established in 2019. However, between this time period, you can see that around 6 million national funds were granted. Also, it is very interesting to notice how this budget actually is divided fairly between academia and private companies. So around 2.5, 2 million went to academia and to private company as well. In fact, we are really looking for collaboration, as has been mentioned today, between the academia and the private sector. Here, just a success story for you is the Hatchery Match project, which indeed was built from a collaboration of a private company, Aqua Biotech Group, and the University of Malta. The aim was to build an automated marine fish hatchery with innovative water recirculating technologies. However, I just ran very quickly. Yes, the final slide is on Plumtree. I think you might be aware of it. It's our platform for research innovation, where we keep you updated with the latest news, events, even finding partners for all the programs I just mentioned. You can register and keep it in touch with foreign researchers. And finally, yes, I run quite fast through our programs, but you can contact us at any time and we will support you with the preferable program you might tap into it. I think in then, yes, so here you have our contacts. We'll be gladly provide you information organizing further meetings. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Cartabia. Are there any schemes or grants or projects which will not be renewed? Because I noticed there's quite a few closed deadlines.
So these are the deadlines of 2023, but the program will be open again. We'll be launching a new calls next year. Usually the calls are, of course, with the similar thematic areas, but the call text, let's say that the detail of the topic might change a bit, but the general thematic areas will remain the same. And the partnership are European co-funded partnership, so they will run until 2027. As has been presented before, because they're following the Horizon Europe Framework Program. So for sure, we're going to have calls until 2027.
Very good.
I
Excellent.
didn't mention, sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Very good. Let's move on to our final presentation of the day and then some closing remarks from Engineer Kushkeri. So Malta Enterprise.
Hello, everyone. Should I share my screen?
Yes, thank you.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
So, good morning, everyone. The Enterprise Europe Network, actually, we have 4 offices in Malta. So Malta Enterprise, we are the coordinators. There's an office at MBB, an office at MCST, and an office at the Chamber of Commerce. And although we're called Enterprise Europe Network, in actual fact, we're found across all the world. So there are over, we're found in over 600 locations and in over 60 countries. So we do not only cover collaborations in Europe, but worldwide. These are some of the services that we offer. So first of all, I'd like to mention we have a partnering matchmaking platform. At the moment, there are over 4,300 profiles, and we have over 40 Maltese profiles. And these basically are divided into 5 categories. So an example of a business offer. So for example, this Maltese company, they actually developed these sachets. So basically these are made from a polymer that basically once they're mainly used in hospitals. So once they are put in contact with blood, for example, or another liquid, they gellify the liquid so that they prevent basically spillage, and it helps with cleaning, etc. So basically, what this Maltese company is doing is offering this product internationally to try and find international partners in new areas. For example, now, although they originally started with helping the health sector, now they've moved with the same concept to organic waste. So basically, the same sachet is placed in organic bins, for example, to collect the moisture from the organic waste. So apart from business offers, so with business offers, a company offers their products or services. With technology offers, an entity, it could be a group of researchers, academics, it could be even industry, offer their expertise, know-how, processes, knowledge. So there's knowledge transfer, basically. We're collaborating very much with different departments at the University of Malta. In the case of R&D requests, these mainly relate to EU funding. So we're speaking of Horizon Europe funding, we're speaking of Erasmus funding, Eurostars, Eureka, different forms of funding, basically. And such profiles are used when an SME or a university are looking for partners to join a consortium. So they're looking for international partners with a proposal in mind, with a particular call in mind, and basically they're trying to formulate a consortium to submit a proposal for some EU funding. Then there are business requests. So as you can realize, there are offers and requests. So it works both ways. So Maltese companies, as well as researchers, academics, can either offer their know-how, expertise, product, services, technology internationally, or else, on the other hand, they're looking for international partners to help them either with some research work or with some project that they're working on. So it works 2 ways. This is an example, for example, of a business request. And as you can see, basically the platform is very technological, with cutting edge technologies, high-end, latest research. So it is continuously being updated on a daily basis. So it is a very active platform that is being updated on a daily basis. And this is an example of a technology request. So as basically we can help both industry as well as university to find international partners, either to help them with some local project, or if they want to grow internationally. So as can be seen from this slide, this is our aim at the end of it, that for every profile that we upload on the platform, we receive expressions of interest from international partners, and the aim is to end up with partnership agreements, basically business agreements. And as EEN, we not only matchmake, but we also guide the individual or the group from across the whole journey until a business agreement is done. We also encourage both SMEs and university staff to take part in brokerage events. Now, these are fairs and exhibitions that are held abroad, but because of COVID, now they shifted to hybrid. So we find then that we can, basically individuals can participate both physically as well as online. Just an example of a recent event, we had Maltese participants as well. And as you can see, there are basically participants both from industry as well as university and other research institutions. So we do encourage you to have a look at the Enterprise Europe Network website, because it is continuously updated with upcoming events. And basically with the hybrid option, this allows participants to register. Usually these events are free of charge, and to actually meet international partners directly. So although profiles are anonymous, and it is only once a match is made that contact details are shared. In the case of brokerage events, participants can meet directly virtually with any participant. Something else that we offer to SMEs is advisory services. Currently, we are focusing on digitalization, and we have different tools. We work with certain tools from German partners, as well as Irish partners. Basically, we do a health check of the company to understand their current situation and where they plan to go, and offer advisory. In the case of the manufacturing industry, we are currently have been awarded a Horizon 2020 funded project, which is over 5.1 million. We partners with 38 other countries, and it is led by Irish Manufacturing Research. And basically, we are helping SMEs in advanced manufacturing to further digitalize and become factories of the future. And what we are offering, there is basically a voucher scheme of advisory hours as well as hours. We link them up with service providers, both local as well and international, to help them integrate different Industry 4.0 technologies, be it 3D printing, be it AI, be it augmented reality, virtual reality, so to help them in their digitalization journey. This is the link to our Malta EEN website, and this is continuously being updated with new upcoming events and services. And these are our contact details. So feel free to reach out, whether you come from industry or whether you come from university. We are here to support you. Our main aim is to help you find international partners.
Thank you very much, Ms. Patch. clearly with the wide range of tools and opportunities available, there's a lot which businesses can do to take advantage of these collaboration opportunities. I'm going to hand over to Engineer Kuskiri for some closing words. The recording of this event is going to be shared widely with everyone who's engaged in the project so far. So you might receive follow-up questions even in the coming weeks. Thank you. Engineer Kuskiri.
Thank you, Tim. It is certainly encouraging to see not only the number of collaboration projects and the possible routes available to maximize upon the symbiotic relationship which exists between industry and academia, but also the quality of such projects and opportunities. I think what is key here, and when I followed some of the speakers, I made a mental note of this, is that there is a requirement of, especially coming from industry, to unblock that mindset that research has to be done internally, and that fear of sharing with the outside world, you know, any potential progress. The progress will happen anyway. It's a question whether you want to be part of it or not. So I think, but this is something which is very important for especially local companies and companies like Tolly and other companies that were mentioned here, and companies that I've worked with in the past. I think that was key to start on such a process. Another key point is it is clear that this is not a one-size-fits-all situation. So my piece of advice is don't get confused on the options. There are a number of key partners here that can help industry choose the right, what applies to them. And, you know, I would start very simple, you know, it could be just sponsoring a university student, you know, or an MCAS student, whatever, to help with the research that they would be doing. Mentioning students, this is something which I hold very close to heart. I think such projects and collaborations which we just mentioned between academia and industry also give opportunities to students to get into the real world, get into industry while still studying and doing what they're doing at that point in their life, keeping in mind that these will be our future leaders and experts in industry. With that, I would like to thank all the presenters and the Tim and all the organizers who presented this very interesting webinar. And I would like to invite you all to watch out for through MBB and Malta Chamber for further announcements, to watch out for upcoming events. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Engineer Kuskiri. Wishing you everyone a fantastic day and a great rest of the week. We will be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.